It would be really awkward if I was out of frame, but we move. This is episode 3 of me looking into the nature of intelligence. And today I want to talk about meta representation or metacognition. Another thing I talked about in the last video, so I'm going to elaborate on that further. So here we go. So, human intelligence isn't just about processing information. It's also about understanding how the information is structured, how it relates to other ideas, and how different perspectives interact with each other. And the concept of meta-representations highlights what truly sets human thought apart from synthetic thought or AI thought. The ability to think about representations of representation. This ability is fundamental to strategic thinking, deception, creativity, self-awareness, and the formation of complex ideologies. It is what allows humans to predict how other people think and react. Understand multiple layers of abstraction, and manipulate, frame, and reconstruct information. This ability, thinking about thought itself, is what enables humans to construct complex social, political, and philosophic systems. And that is something that synthetic intelligence, or AI so far, is unable to do. So, let's talk about thinking in layers, or meta-representations, right? At the basic level, a representation is an idea, belief, or perception. A meta-representation is a thought on that representation. So this layering creates a hierarchy of cognition. Basic cognition is saying something like the enemy is strong. Simple, objective, relatively objective statement. Then the second layer is the enemy wants us to believe that they are strong. Here you can see that we are trying to predict what the enemy is thinking. Also, you see, the second layer would be our spies know that the enemy wants us to believe that they are strong so that they may deceive us. So here, we're building upon what was thought before. Like the enemy thinks that wants us to think. You know what? I might have to redo this bit. Screw, you get the point. You can see the layers here. And third level of meta-representation is the enemy likely knows that our spies would suspect deception, meaning that they might actually be strong. So you can see this dilly-dallying of going down this rabbit hole of thinking what the other guy thinks and the reaction of what the other guy thinks or what you think, and all this thinking that's jumping around. This thing is inherently human, and I'm not sure your ChatGPT can replicate this. I'm not gonna lie. So that's how that works. This is why intelligence warfare, hybrid warfare, is not just about information, but also controlling how information is interpreted at different layers. Like, for example, at diplomatic negotiations involve framing issues not as just the way they are, like the first level of cognition, but as how they might be perceived by other actors. So you're trying to think what other brains would think of the thing, if that makes sense. And ideological battles are fought not just on what has been literally said, but rather who gets to define the meaning in the first place. That's why in debates people love to talk about definitions, because if people play by your definition, you're very likely to win. And finally, advertising and propaganda rely on not just direct persuasion of please buy the product, please fight and die and kill yourself for your country type shit. It's more controlling how people perceive the intention behind a message. Changing their literal relationship to the ideas that are being spread. So how does meta representation play with social intelligence? And before we do that, we should say what social intelligence depends on, right? It depends on the theory of the mind, the ability to understand that others have different thoughts, emotions, and perspectives, aka not everybody thinks like you. The second thing is strategic framing. The ability to present information in a way that shapes another person's perception of reality. This is where you're trying to shape the other person's literal way they live their life so that they do it in a way that you want them to do it because that benefits you. Or basically changing the way they think so they think like you or for you. And then finally, persuasion and influence. The ability to reframe narratives to manipulate beliefs and behavior. And this is just taking that second thing I talked about to a whole new level. You know, by creating a narrative that follows your self-interest, you can have other people work for you that way. You know, keep that in mind for whenever you want to do something like that. You know, so let's talk about meta representations and synthetic intelligence in AIs. The thing that's missing right now with their behavior, you know. They're like, you know, as we know, artificial intelligence is highly advanced in data processing, pattern recognition, and decision making, but it still lacks true meta representation. So while AI can analyze vast amounts of information, it does not yet think about how others perceive that information it produces, you know. The meaning, it struggles with deception, abstract strategy, and long-term manipulation of perception. An AI basically can do these three things: identify patterns in behavior, optimize responses based on historical data, and engage in structured logical reasoning. But the AI basically struggles to do this, you know, infer unspoken intentions behind words or actions, predict how someone will react to new information in multiple levels of cognition, and then finally framing knowledge in a way that manipulates further and future perceptions, you know. And let me give an example to make this jargon clear. You know, a human spy can anticipate that counterintelligence efforts and engage in disinformation tactics. An AI can't do that unless you literally tell it to do that. You know, or they literally program it to do that, and will literally take any information you give it at face value, rather than considering how it might be there to manipulate them in a strategic point of view. You know. So if AI were to, you know, develop meta-representational abilities, it would first have to be able to construct and manipulate narratives with intent, predict not only just actions, but the reasoning behind actions, and then finally engage in deception, counter-deception, and strategic disinformation. You know, essentially the ability to lie for your sake. So yeah. At that point, AI will stop becoming a tool and rather an actor in the world that we occupy and live in, you know? And that would just lead to more psychological, hybrid, and ideological warfare. I wonder if you guys are looking forward to that or not. I don't know. I'm just chilling if you feel me. So, can we escape our own framing? That's the next thing we should consider. Because while meta representations give humans high-level cognitive flexibility, it also creates limitations and vulnerabilities. You know, humans can be trapped in their own meta representations, aka they tunnel vision, you know, because people overanalyze intent, leading to paranoia, self-imposed cognitive traps. Conspiracy theories are a result of this flaw, because they often emerge as excessive meta-thinking on where every action is seen as part of a hidden scheme. Meta-representational bias can also be exploited because that's what social engineers, propagandists, and intelligence operatives use. They use false meta-representations to create a controlled perception loop. So if an intelligence agency says, if it wants to like conceal an operation, they might just leak false conspiracy theories, you know, so that anyone who stumbles upon the truth dismisses it as part of disinformation. You see this double think that's going on right here? And there's also a limit on how many layers of representation a person can track. While humans can engage in complex cognitive layering, at certain points the computational cost becomes too high, leading to errors in judgment. So this raises a very fundamental question. Is there a cognitive threshold beyond which even human intelligence collapses? If so, then AI might be able to extend those meta-representational depth beyond human capabilities and limitations. That would create a new form of intelligence capable of strategic abstraction, at levels we cannot reach. This is where the fear of AI kicks in, because we think that it can do that, even though it doesn't even have the skill to think beyond what's literally being presented. You know what I mean? In a way, it's very naive, like children. You know? So yeah, man. My notes are a little messy, so I'm trying to figure out what I wrote. Okay. So yeah. So I mean, I guess the moral of the story yeah, man. I got distracted by nature. Long story short, it's these meta representations that make us human, and building upon this ability, also known as critical thinking, can basically help us be more human. And I think we should do that more often. Let me know what you think of whatever I yapped about in the comments down below. Let's have a discussion, shall we?